Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. I want to still cover what's going on over at the World Health Assembly, where all of our world leaders are meeting together, pretending like they're not going to sign this treaty that is going to enslave the citizens of the world to a health organization who has the ability to, create fake viruses and lock people up if they think they got near the virus and pretty much move people around like chess pieces and lock them in place. That's really what they're trying to do. And some of the media out there has been covering it, and they're trying to pretend, of course, because this is all psychological. They're trying to pretend like they're not going through with this treaty, and they are going through with this treaty. Even conservative alt-right media outlets are pretending like it's a victory for the people. And look between the lines, read between the lines, right? Here are some of the stories coming out of there, including what they're calling a One Health approach and a social engagement resolution that they've proposed, which, of course, if you read between the fine lines, is more about disinformation and misinformation and how they can censor free speech than it is about combating any type of an outbreak, because really the virus to them, the threat that they're afraid of, are people exposing how they're building a new world order all in the name of health and science, things that you can't question. Hello, is anyone out there not paying attention? I mean, you don't have to be the deepest, most critical type of thinker to see what's going on here. This isn't something where we're getting into a deep dive about Project Bluebeam or any of these other operations that the CIA has created over the years. This is really very easy to see. This isn't about MK Ultra. It's not even about Manchurian candidates. This is about something real simple if you read between the lines. Government signing over the rights to civilians to a group of unelected people who have very wicked, sadistic plans, and they're pretending that this is all to protect us from all of a sudden, all of these viruses that are coming out, right? Nobody was worrying about this stuff in the 80s and the 90s. They've worried for a few minutes over the HIV and AIDS scare, and then they tried to publicize that with Magic Johnson, who conveniently is alive and well to this day, right? And a billionaire and a guy who loves to hold up Freemasonic hand gestures all the time. So look at a couple of these stories. Very important to know. Western states are pushing for a deal on pandemic response rules at the WHO meeting. Well, of course, right? And who's leading the charge? The United States of America. Who's most worried about their civilians having too much power? The United States of America. What country is most likely to rise up against a tyrannical dictatorship? The United States of America. Why? Because the United States of America still happens to be armed. That's why our government is so hell-bent on removing free speech. So the other story that's out there I have to show you is ignore the disinformation. The U.S. is safer with a global pandemic treaty. This is from The Hill. And it's written by somebody who goes by the name of Dr. Alexandra Phelan. Okay, so this is your doctor. This is your scientist. This is the one who is telling us to ignore people like me and you from talking, but we're going to believe Dr. Alexandra Phelan, who got her doctorate degree, I suppose, at the University of Eastern Star Witches, because that's clearly what she's a doctor of. And she's telling us, I mean, you see the picture. I mean, it's incredible. These are the people that we're taking advice from, right? People who are products of social engineering, doing social engineering on their own, telling you what's misinformation and what's not, right? This is what's written in the article about ignoring disinformation before I show you what's in this actual, this treaty, so to speak, but this quote unquote social engagement resolution. This is from the article written by Alexandra, him or herself. Oh, I'm sorry. They, she or they, because she has her pronouns. Incredible how all these people you could identify if they would take poison into their bodies or not, based on little things like having that flag or having pronouns out in the open, right? Or putting the word doctor at this point in front of your name. You realize, oh, okay, well, they probably ride the Hershey Highway, or at least like to try the Hershey Highway. Number two, they're very likely to want to poison themselves and many other people, and they're completely clueless. So that's all it takes to be a doctor in today's world. So she writes in this article, they write, a One Health approach ensures, this is her propagating to the audience that reads this garbage, why it's needed. The One Health approach, again, one is the key word in a new world order. For anyone that's new to this stuff, everything's in the name of one. One world religion, one currency, one government, one world health. A One Health approach ensures their governments take action at the interfaces between human, animal, and environmental health. Okay, keyword, not just human, animal. The stuff I was just talking about the bird flu, animal level. Let the WHO come in and tell us that we either need to euthanize all of our food supply chain because we have to be fearful we might get the sniffles, or them saying, hey, well, we're not going to tell you to kill off the food supply chain. We're just going to tell you to put this in every chicken that's on the earth, or we're going to have to euthanize the chicken. So then people go, well, I guess I'll give it to the chicken. I'm not giving it to myself. And they don't understand how CRISPR works. They don't understand how gene editing works and how it's transmissible to humans. So it ensures that governments take action against human, animal, and then environmental health, which has to do with what we just saw a few years ago where they were killing off our crops, telling us it was better that we take the chances of starving to death or not having enough food on our table than getting a runny nose, right? She says this could mean global rules on deforestation, intense farming of animals, overuse of antibiotics, and the trade in wild animals, including wet markets. So even mentioning global rules should be something that people go, whoa, global rules? So what is even the point of us having elections? Well, there really is no point because your vote really doesn't count. And if you really think it does still, well, you're still just convincing yourself of that because you don't want to face the reality of the matter, is that there's a tyrannical group of psychopaths who are pulling all the strings, and it starts psychologically. When you get past the psychological aspect of all this and you realize what's going on, you realize there's more of us than there are them, and they still are fearful of us, and there are still things that can be done. So she goes on to write, but all these global public goods are at risk from a worldwide disinformation campaign aimed at derailing the treaty. False claims include the loss of U.S. sovereignty to craft public health policies. Yet, the draft treaty expresses national sovereignty. Also, the WHO Director General does not have the power to require lockdowns or issue mandates for masks or for magic potions. This year, more than 64 countries are holding elections. Elections in the U.S. pose a particularly high risk to the success of diplomatic negotiations. Recall that President Trump withdrew the U.S. from WHO only to be reversed by Biden. There's little doubt that a future Trump administration would torpedo WHO negotiations. So key words there, sovereignty, claiming that it wouldn't be a loss of U.S. sovereignty when in fact, of course, it would be a loss. And then this is the same stuff they always tell us, right? That the unmagic potion, we're killing the magic potion, which makes no sense in any world where someone's critically thinking because the one who has the potion is supposed to be immune from everything, right? So the ones who didn't have it were the risk. We were the threat. We were the problem, right? And of course, proven right, but they'll never admit or say anything about it. And the other people who were dumb enough to get the potion continue to be stubborn about it because they don't want to admit they're wrong because narcissists don't want to admit they're wrong, right? So let me move on from this article to the actual this negotiation that they're having, okay? In the fine print of this negotiation and what they have written up, it says, the importance of long-term, sustained community engagement to ensure trust and effective public health interventions and expressing concern at the erosion of trust, particularly during the past outbreak, as well as the negative impacts of health-related misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, and stigmatization on multiple media platforms on people's physical and mental health, recalling the political declaration of the General Assembly high-level meeting on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. Does anyone not, I know that when people read these things, they don't pay attention, they just immediately start daydreaming. You're talking about supposedly the health of so many people. Then you're trying to say disinformation, and then somehow tying disinformation to hate speech, and then physical and mental health. So warning people about the dangers of something that they have a choice in taking or not taking, of course, is a dangerous threat. And then as these articles out there about what's going on right now over in Geneva go on, they say the U.S. is very optimistic of a deal. Well, of course the U.S. is optimistic of a deal because they know there's going to be a deal. And this guy, Xavier Becerra, okay, who, if you're not aware what this guy's doing out in the open, any of these guys in the Biden administration, it's incredible that Democrats align themselves with these people. When they're out in the open, they hate the country. They tell you they hate the country. They tell you that they want to flood the country. It's incredible that anyone's even stuck inside the left-right paradigm with the stuff that these people are doing. That's what amazes me most, I think, when I think about everything going on, is that Democrats actually support this. This is a guy who just openly admitted and talked about how they want to be able to give liver transplants and other really important emergency surgeries to non-American citizens living in America. If that's not gaslighting, I don't know what is, but how these people haven't been arrested for treason just shows you that they know that they can get away with whatever they want. So listen to this quote from him. He says, negotiations go on forever. I think we have to put this in perspective. You do not build a nation overnight. You do not build an empire state building overnight. It takes a long time. Name me a major international achievement that came overnight. I think there's clear consensus that we cannot let the status quo be upon us if another pandemic comes. Listen to the wording of that. It's very eerily similar to the expression Rome wasn't built in a day, when he's saying you don't build a nation overnight. They're supposed to be talking about a treaty here, a treaty that's supposed to protect citizens. And that's not what they're actually talking about. And he's even telling you in what he's saying here, you do not build a nation overnight. You do not build an empire state building overnight. What they're building is a global dictatorship run through the World Health Organization and these other tyrannical, non-elected groups that are going to have power over all of us. And they, all these Democrats, these, like the woman who wrote the article, the girl that wrote the article holding her puppy dog up who claims to be a doctor, couldn't be more clueless, putting pronouns out there on the profile. I mean, it's all you need to know, right? But saying, this is what's needed, right? We need a one world health approach. And we need a one world health approach because it's for our betterment. But people out there are a problem because they're worrying about their sovereignty. People out there are a problem because they think that the WHO Director General would have the power to require lockdowns. Well, of course they would. It's right in the fine print. Of course they would. When they're talking about all this stuff, they don't expect the common citizen to understand what they're saying. And all they see are these guys in suits who make a lot of money. So they say, well, they know all this stuff. They know all the science, right? But I keep telling people, and I said it a million times, I'll say it again because it seems to work when I tell people in day-to-day life. It's like if Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, all these guys who were told were serial killers, a lot of them CIA operatives, if they were all the ones who were trying to form this, but you'd be like, what? What? We got to go do something quick. They're psychopaths. These people are more psychotic than any serial killer, any horror movie icon you've ever seen. Okay? And they're doing this without being elected, without any mediation, without anybody's involvement. And the governments are signing this over to these people. The United States government, the UK, Australia, et cetera, et cetera. They're signing this over to them, which means they're signing us over to them. So the same government that's supposed to protect us will be giving us up to these people. And then when they tell you, well, we're not going to require lockdowns, listen to the stuff that they're saying. They're saying we need to run simulations, we need to run drills. Bill Gates was just talking about it openly, how if something happens in the future, every single country has to follow the same protocol. Every single country has to do the same exact thing because we can't have, what happened last time happen again. And he's right, we can't have what happened last time happen again. And that's why these people need to be removed, period. Removed from power, citizens arrest. You could say whatever you want. It's very dangerous to say anything because everything's considered a threat these days. But these people need to have their power removed because they weren't elected by civilians, so they should not have rights or sovereignty over us. The majority of us don't even believe that any of these things actually ever existed in the first place. And nothing really popped up until, of course, people started shedding poison onto one another. So when this person writes an article and says, well, they're not going to require lockdowns, they're openly telling you that they are. They're openly telling you that they need to, every country needs to monitor it the same way, which means they need to have access to all of our accounts, to wherever we were, which again ties in with the digital ID. Wherever we are moving, which will also give them more power to roll out the digital ID. That way we can see who's potioned, who's not. We can see who goes here, who goes there. Oh, that person's a carrier and they're in the Caribbean. Okay, well, we're going to lock them down when they get off the plane. Then we're going to lock down anyone that came within 6 feet of them. They've been conditioning you for this for years now. And they're going forward with it. Anybody in the alt-right media that tells you that they're not going forward with it is either not, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're working you. Because they like to give conservatives out there the idea that they're winning in this battle. And I call it the seesaw. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, right? Trump did this. Yeah. Oh, they're going after Trump. Oh, we lose. And it goes back and forth. Otherwise, those people, the conservatives, will realize the entire thing is a work. And that's who they really fear, a lot of the conservatives out there. Those are the ones who are armed. Those are the ones who like capitalism, who like private property, okay? So they fear them. So they have to give them a little bit of a taste to think that they're winning. So the alt-right media tells them, oh, yeah, the pandemic treaty fell right on its face. Take that pandemic treaty. Take that so-and-so. Take that, Bill Gates. That's not what's actually occurring. They're working you. They're making it seem to the public like they're actually debating this stuff and going back and forth. This stuff is ready. It's in place. It's signed. They're just giving you the illusion that countries are debating about what should be done and what shouldn't be done, as if it's a real negotiation. Because if people realize it's not a negotiation at all, it's a bunch of tyrants who are looking to take over our day-to-day lives, then people go, well, we got to stop this, right? How do we stop it? What do we do to stop it? Do we remove ourselves just from technology, shut it all off? That's a good way to start. Do we stop paying tax? That's another good way. Do we stop funding this entire operation? Yeah. We do more than stop funding it. We stop acknowledging the existence of these people. We stop acknowledging their power. We stop feeling intimidated by their fear tactics that they throw at us. And the civilians rise up against the tyranny. That's the only way that it stops. But to think for 1 second, like these conservatives do, that any of these politicians who are conservative are helping the cause. Oh, they're voting against it. Oh, they're stopping. Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, some of our politicians are rejecting the WHO's treaty. No, they're not. They're working you, so you think that they're actually working for you. But they're not working for you. They just don't want you to realize it yet. So they want to tickle your ears so you continue every day to look to them in hopes that they're going to do something about it instead of the civilians doing something about it before it's too late. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. Thanks again, everybody. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.